How many of us feel lonely even when we're surrounded by people? How many of us have relationships that look fine on the outside, but on the inside, they don't feel fulfilled? How many of us struggle to feel safe in our relationships, whether they're platonic, romantic, or just casual? The fact that more than one person in this room could raise their hands to that question proves to me that connection is extremely important to us. So if connection is so important, why is it so hard? I started sitting with that question, and in it learned that there is a science to this, a biological framework that shapes the way we show up in relationships and why we might struggle. Attachment theory explores the idea that as children, we adopted strategies to help us feel close with our primary caregivers. These strategies became patterns that helped us cope and feel safe, but these patterns may no longer serve us if we want longer and healthier relationships. But here's the hopeful part. With self-compassion, self-awareness, and a courage to look inward, we will not only be able to answer those questions, but we can answer these. Do you trust yourself enough to get back up when you fail? Do you react from what you truly feel or what you think might happen? Are you seeing situations clearly or through the lens of your own insecurities? Because the overall answer isn't about fixing yourself, but it is about learning how to feel safe with yourself. Because when you feel safe with yourself, it changes how you love, how you respond, and how you connect with others. I truly believe that an understanding of your own attachment styles can get you there. I now know this not because I'm some psychologist, but because of what I've questioned, lived, and practiced over the past couple of years. My freshman year of college, when I first arrived on campus, I was a little earlier than most students for a summer program. And as I met new people, I started to make conversations. And I was friendly, I got along with people, but deep down I noticed something strange happening. I felt detached and almost performative. I was constantly trying to figure out how to be instead of just being. I was reacting in ways I thought the other person wanted me to react, just so the conversation wouldn't fall apart. I would engage in conversations I had no real interest in, hoping that something would turn into connection. I was trying to read people and analyze them, all while rehearsing what I was going to say back to them in that conversation. I felt the same anxiety in my deeper platonic and romantic relationships as the semester went on, where I was so antsy about securing that relationship. After any social interactions, I would go back into my dorm room drained, and I would replay every conversation in my head, wondering if I sounded strange, if I said the wrong thing, if the other person liked me, or if I even made sense. And when I wasn't overanalyzing, I was completely isolating. I was telling myself, oh, I'll just put my schoolwork first, or I don't need to focus on my friendships right now. I noticed these thoughts and behaviors followed me throughout the entire semester. And it wasn't until winter break, after a conversation with a client of mine, that I had to sit down and ask myself, why am I struggling so much? So of course, I ran to Google, and I came across attachment theory. And in short, as children, we learned what closeness feels like, what safety feels like, and what we have to do to receive love based on our relationships with our caregivers and other important figures in our lives. When those connections feel safe and secure, we learn that connection isn't fragile. When they are inconsistent, or they're just harder to read in general, a group of us, either maximize our feelings to get the care that we want, or others minimize our feelings just to avoid the situation and feel safe with ourselves. Researchers of attachment theory categorize adults into one of four attachment styles: anxious, avoidant, disorganized, and secure attachment styles. For people with anxious attachment, what looks like kindness is often really a fear. We overgive, we're over-explaining, and we over-accommodate, not because we're actually nice, but because connection feels fragile, and we feel we have to do more to keep it. Underneath, we're thinking, if I'm easy, if I'm agreeable enough, I won't be left. Avoidant attachers, the closeness of a new relationship just feels intense. We may care deeply, but distance feels safer than actually being honest and vulnerable with our needs. Instead of reaching for connection, we pull back. Underneath, we're thinking, if I get too close, I'll lose control. If I'm vulnerable, I'll just get overwhelmed and maybe hurt. Oh, and if you couldn't already tell from my story, disorganized attachment style is a unique mix of both. Secure attachment doesn't, however, mean perfect. It means being able to express your needs, tolerate the discomfort, especially the discomfort that comes with conflict, and trust that repair is possible. I probably stayed up for nights in a row reading about these behavioral patterns. I finally had language for the ways I was feeling. They were patterns, and patterns can be worked with. That moment for me created self-awareness and a moment to pause. But awareness alone isn't enough, because once I noticed these patterns, it became very easy to judge. But judging doesn't create the emotional safety that I needed to shift my attachment style. And so this is where self-compassion becomes essential. More Googling, I also came across the work of Kristen Neff. And Kristen Neff studies self-compassion and how useful it can be when you're addressing tough and difficult emotions or experiences. So I started intentionally practicing the three components that she describes: self-kindness, calming humanity, and mindfulness. I started normalizing my experiences instead of isolating myself in them. So calming humanity looked like telling myself, I'm not the only one feeling this way. Someone else has felt this exact same way before. And I wasn't uniquely flawed. And you're not uniquely flawed. Self-kindness looked like changing the way I spoke to myself and being patient with myself, understanding my struggles and not judging them so quickly. Mindfulness meant slowing down in real time and noticing when I was about to say yes to something, an event or whatever, even though I really meant no. And I was too scared that I would be rejected. These were small shifts, but over time, they helped me move on from reacting automatically to responding intentionally and genuinely. Together, these practices proved to me that shifting attachment styles could not start with me shaming myself. I had to stop seeing my attachment and my anxious tendencies as struggles and start seeing them as adaptations that once helped me survive intimacy of relationships. I learned that sometimes what we call kindness is actually fear of abandonment, that self-abandonment can look like selflessness, and that I can have compassion for my patterns without letting them run my life. Because if you're only reacting in ways you believe the other person needs you to react, they are not getting the genuine version of you. They don't get to experience the real you. A performed version of yourself cannot offer genuine care, genuine love, or connection. You'll end up burnt out, disconnected, and even resentful. But this work is even deeper than that. Because when your relationship with yourself becomes kinder and more secure, you stop abandoning yourself to keep others close. If we begin to heal our relationships with ourselves, we will naturally show up differently from everybody around us. The ripple effect is then emotional safety, stronger boundaries with people, and more emotionally intelligent communities. The next time that you feel yourself feeling on edge about a new relationship or nervous about one that you already own, I want you to pause. Give yourself a second to choose your reaction, because your initial one was learned. It wasn't random, but what was learned can be relearned. Thank you.